Okay, so I've got that. Foma's got hers. Students have theirs. I can focus on my notes. Okay, great, good. So let's see that self view. So we can, yeah, I mean, the only thing is I would say push where you're sitting. Exactly, push that in a bit. Other than that, we're good, you know? Yeah, nice. We see, yeah, we'll see Brandon there too. And I'll push these guys in. Great. Yeah. Yeah, tweak it out so that we can see everybody, and then Brandon too. That's your spot if you want to, or if you want to be on. Yeah, that might be a little tight in here. Maybe what we'll do is, oh, you can actually push yours back. Yeah, some. Here, I'll help you here. Let's see. There's a just to give some space for the guest, but as long as it's more, yeah, you'll see opening this up a little bit. Anyways, I wish we could, probably what we need to do eventually is put some tape down on the floor so we know how to, but anyway, because everything gets moved around, but that's great. Okay, good. And if Foma's over there, and I liked the way you're really moving the camera. Keep doing it. You know, you go over her. Even when we have the camera going over to the door, it gives a sense of people arriving and an event's happening. You know, so and I can, and so it gives me a chance to do what I used to call when I was in television play by play. That I'm describing like the hockey commentator what's happening in the game, so that the viewer really feels they're right there because I'm describing what they're seeing. I call it play by play. Okay, so if you hear, but let me get the let me get the door and the attendants, and then we're okay. So I see into is there. Just so we have a board. A board today. We have lawn, Applebee. We have Mayreen Khan. Yeah, and I'll get Brandon. What's your, I forget your last name again? What is it again? Oh, Brandon Smith. I thought it was Carson. Brandon Smith. Okay, so then and then keep it going. Brandon Smith, and then come on in. Way to go. Excellent. Good. So we're in Toria now, so I can start. And we're not on YouTube yet. Oh, we are. Yeah, great. Okay. So, hi everyone in the cosmos. It's Lon Appleby here in the global classroom at Durham College. And as you can see, with our DJ on the podium, Mayreen, and you will also see shortly on the board today our scribe, Foma. We are about to blast off with a whole class on gamification, which is bringing gaming into the professional world as a skill, as a tool. There's a format, yeah. So we're going to get going officially in about 5 minutes, just waiting for people to come in to the classroom here. And if there's anything that you would like to bring up in the classroom, please put it into the live chat and we will engage with you for sure. And then if there's anyone on YouTube coming in from elsewhere in the world, just put your comments into the live chat and we will check the YouTube live chat at some point as well. But we'll see, okay? It's just that there's a lot we're doing here, but fortunately, everybody is at their stations. And we also have a really good guest coming in today. I'll tell you about momentarily. Great. So the classroom is starting to fill up. Brandon's here, Afoma, Alec, Christian, Madison, Ethan, excellent, and others. Don't forget to, yeah, good. Oh, and we have our Sri Lankan, voice of Sri Lanka here today. We might have to do a little review. And it's Tanisha, right? Is it Tanisha? Good. So, okay, so we're just kind of getting set up. We still have 5 minutes to go. Mayrene's working on things. Sean, how are you? What's that? Well, he is called Gamer Dad, and that's called Gamer Dad TV. And he's going to be our guest today. He's going to be live right here. And this is a whole class about gamification. He's a professor at the college, and he's actually a really great example of global leadership in terms of what he's been doing at the college. So I've asked him to come in and be our guest today. But we'll see. He's going to come when he can for a half an hour, and he's going to sit right there or here or anywhere. We'll figure it out. And good. Mayrene's got the big board going. And what you're seeing, Sean, what you're seeing there is just a silent recording of, yeah, why don't you go ahead and so we can hear him a little bit? Uh, do you know Gamer Dad TV? I don't know. Anyway, do, oh, yeah. So let's see. And good, you're here. Okay, great. Uh, if you feel too close, we can push this back. But let's see. Are you okay to sit here? Yeah, it's a little close. Or, can you see? Okay. Yeah. Okay. As long as you can see, good. Uh, okay. Wow. This is very good. It's all working. So let's see. You know what you can write is just put the date and then or the oh so first do global leader. So that's today, global leader. And today is Wednesday, January 29th. Yeah. So 5. And we're going to be doing gamification, and we have a guest, Michael Cameron. Okay, so then, uh, whoops. So usually what I do is I have a little agenda here, so it's tech, welcome, and it's today, and then it's a board, and then it's sort of news, and then review, and then guest, and then discussion post, and then we'll leave that up. Yeah, we'll leave that here for now, and then we'll get going with the notes soon. Oh, yeah, right, it's the other side, exactly. Remember, yeah, great. I'll leave that here. Okay, so we're just about ready to start. Good, way to go. Are you all set? Excellent. Okay. Can I see Toria for a second and make sure I want to make sure that they can hear me while we're still running the video, because sometimes there's interference. Um, Good morning, Cosmos, Liam, and Inthu. Can you hear me clearly? It's on? See, I'm speaking now while we have a video. Good, Liam.
Yeah, we could hear
Great,
you.
great, great. Okay, good, because for those of you in the Cosmos, Inthu and Liam, if you would like to see what we've been just watching, go ahead into the folder and click on Gamer Dad TV, as well as Michael Cameron link. He's going to be our guest, and we're doing a whole class on gamification. So I think, hold on 2 secs. I think we can get going. Great. Okay, just a second. Alec, grab a mic and I'll bring it over. Make sure you're. So,
Good morning.
want to keep it silent? Just, yeah, good. Okay, so we are officially launched. Let's go. Alec, go ahead.
I was just gonna bring up, what are your thoughts on Red Note?
On
Red Note.
rent,
Red Note.
Red Note. You're going to have to explain Red Note to me, okay? Because I confess, I've only heard a little bit, but I barely know anything about it. So
So
go
basically,
ahead and tell me, please.
so since the U.S. is planning on banning TikTok, a bunch of users went over to Red Note, which is another Chinese app, but it seems to have created a culture of like
Come on in, guys.
everyday
Yeah.
Chinese citizens and everyday American citizens interacting and learning from each other.
Well, this is great because actually I was planning to talk about DeepSeek, which is the big news. But okay, great. So thank you, Alec. Well, first, let me just make sure that we can stick to a structure because, as you probably have learned by now in this class kind of breaks open, and I like it to be pretty freewheeling, but then I try to guide things. I just think it's more exciting that way. However, structure is important in certain ways, and there is a structure to the class. And I just want to make sure I cover the basics. Then I'm going to get to Alec and his question, because I actually have a category, as you'll see in the agenda up on the board, called news that I've added now, because I just think we need to always have a little chat about news at the beginning, since so much is going on right now. But first, I need to set up what's happening in today's class. Okay, so everyone, welcome. And for those of you who are drifting in, don't forget by the end to put your name on the board, okay, for attendance, and you get your participation marks. And we have today what I think is going to be a little change of pace. We've been having classes that are pretty, I would say, more on the slightly darker side, or at least we're looking at some very serious issues so far. We started with Romeo Dallaire, and that was a big problem, that we started with. But we've been moving a little more towards things that are positive, and I think that today's class you're going to find really positive and really kind of upbeat, and that's because we're going to be looking at gaming, and particularly the idea of gamification, which is bringing gaming into a professional world, into the world that you will be entering as emerging leaders and using gaming as a tool to help plan and solve problems. And so gamification is something that I find fascinating because it's largely a new phenomenon, and it's important for the older generation to really be engaging with this too. So I think you're going to find a guest who's going to be coming in shortly at some point in the class today. I've asked the founder of the esports center at the college, Michael Cameron, Professor Michael Cameron, to join us. And he's a really interesting, I think, example of a leader in a creative way. He is 61 years old, basically the same age I am, 62. He founded the esports center here, proposed it to our past president, Don Lavisa, and he has a channel called Gamer Dad TV, where he live streams his gaming. So I find him inspiring as somebody that I can learn from, and I think you will be able to as well. The focus, though, although we're going to be looking at gaming and all sorts of interesting things around gaming, Maureen as well happens to be a bit of a gamer too, as probably most of you are. What we're looking at specifically is bringing gaming together with leadership and how you can be using gaming as a tool to visualize, plan out, think through problem solving in whatever field you're going into. So this is not gaming strictly for entertainment, although it is. This is gaming for education, and it's called gamification. Okay, that's the term. I'm sure you've all heard that term before. Okay, so before I get to Alex's question, I want to just also um, thank all of you because you may have a sense of this, but I just want to acknowledge this right now before we get going. I've really been enjoying reading the first reflections this semester that have been coming in. There was a big amount of them last night. I mean, dozens coming in because that was the due date last night. But actually, quite a few of you sent in your first reflection before the due date. And some of you have been talking about the experience in this classroom. And it has really helped me to understand something about what we're doing here. And I want to thank you because I believe, listening to all of you, that we are creating something that's needed very much right now in the world. And so I will talk more about that later. I want to keep the focus always on you, but I wanted to just make sure you understand that there's a format that's developing in this class. And I know a lot about formats because I used to be a television producer for many years and created television shows. So I understand format. There's a format that's emerging that I think is really working well for everybody, judging from what you're saying in your reflections. And one of the things in the format that works well, well, there are many things, but I'll just identify one, is we have what I call a scribe, okay, over here doing the notes. And so there's always a student who's getting full participation marks for taking the notes for everyone to be sharing in the class folder. Right now, it's AFOMA, but it can be any of you if you want. Next week, it could be one of you. And if you choose to be the scribe that week for the class notes, you get full participation marks and you don't have to do your discussion post, okay? So you're welcome to replace AFOMA if you want to, but for now, she's been doing the notes and she's been doing them really well. And that person always gets a microphone, okay? So she can speak, or he at any time. Maureen is our DJ on the podium who manages our $500,000 video wall and brings in the multimedia world, which allows me to engage with all of you. I don't have to worry about all of those things. All of this is developing. We're developing a classroom. Your feedback is instrumental. I'm just going to say one thing before I move on and get set up. Let me come back to something that Liam actually said. I think Liam is with us in the cosmos. Liam, are you able to jump on your microphone for a second, or we'll just come on in, Michael? Here comes our guest. Liam, are you there? Grab a seat anytime.
I'm
Okay. Liam, okay. Michael, I'm just getting them set up, but we'll start in 5 minutes. Yeah, we have you for 30 minutes, right? Okay. Anytime grab, that's your seat today or anywhere, but you come into the inner circle, okay, with us. You ready? Okay, great. So our guest is here. Lovely. Okay, good. So Liam, I just wanted to mention to you that you wrote an excellent first reflection, okay? And I can tell you right now, you will receive full marks for it, and you will see that. And I extracted something that you asked in that reflection that I think is very relevant to today. So, Liam, can you stay on your microphone for a second, just so we can engage with you live?
Yeah, I'm here.
Great. Liam, you asked, referring to the force of complexity, which all of you understand is the critical force in global leader, Liam asked, what is the way to get past complexity? Which is a great question. Now, I've identified for all of you that the critical force you're dealing with as emerging leaders, or any leader has to deal with today, is how do you manage this absolutely maddening, frustrating, and challenging complexity in the global world, or I would call it the glocal world, global and local at the same time. Liam is taking it a little further now, which is wonderful. He's saying, okay, I get it. How do we get past it? So I want to say to you a couple of things. First, in today's class, we're going to start to see how we can get past it by incorporating things like gaming into problem solving so that you can deal with complexity. The second thing, and I just want to put this out there, but please don't feel any pressure. I just want to identify this for you. This classroom that we're creating is something very needed in the world right now. And I'm not the one who's saying this. All of you are in your reflections. Please spread the word. That's all I ask you. If you want to invite friends to come, if you want to talk about what we're doing here, sharing, letting people know about the classes online, please do. I say that partly to promote, fair enough, to market, but more than that, this afternoon, I'm going to be giving a class in Humanity's Destiny on the next big thing. I'm going to be talking about a futurist, Ray Kurzweil, who is one of our most important futurists. He's a senior developer in AI at Google right now. I think you know that you're living through an extremely important moment in history. And Ray Kurzweil has said this now. So has Bill Gates and many others. There's a thing called a singularity that Ray Kurzweil discusses, and that is there's a point in history where machine intelligence will surpass human intelligence. We're living through that right now. I cannot underestimate to you, I can't promote enough, I can't talk about enough how important it is for all of you to take this seriously. Wake up to the world you're living in right now. Michael will help to explain this more about how, as an adult, an older person like myself, he's using technology for our betterment. If I need to remind you of this, then you really do need to wake up. This is the second week of a new American president, but it's not about Donald Trump. It's about Elon Musk. It's about Jeff Bezos. It's about Mark Zuckerberg. It's about big tech and big data who all stood side by side with the American president and unapologetically, very clearly said, by their presence, We have bought our way into power. We have bought Donald Trump. That's what they've done. Elon Musk spent $277 million on Donald Trump's election and the Republicans. Once Elon Musk was a critic of Donald Trump, as the others were. Jeff Bezos is the founder creative of Amazon. They have all decided now that they want to be on Team Trump. And look at the news today, for example. The Americans are now saying, let's name the Gulf of Mexico Gulf of America. Yesterday, what did Google announce? Google Maps. Google, the founder of Google, was standing right beside Donald Trump at his inauguration. And today, what are we dealing with? Google Maps is saying, put Gulf of America instead of Gulf of Mexico. Big tech, big data, the machine world is moving beyond all of us, and we have to make sure we're educated in a way that we never have been before to deal with this so we can get ahead of this. That's what Michael is going to help us to do today, understand this too. Use technology, use our intelligence, use our classrooms to get ahead, not to be following. Otherwise, we're going to all become just little tech sheep following all the Elon Musks of the world, and we will be eternally stressed and depressed, guaranteed. Complaining all the time about people in power. So we need to be empowered. No question about that. Okay, Alec, can you hold your thought for a second? I just want to make sure Michael is, well, come up, okay, and then we'll go ahead and ask your question, then we'll introduce Michael.
Well, it's not a question, it's
Yeah.
just a correction. Google Maps will change it to the Gulf of America only for American users.
For American users, okay. But for global users, we will still see Gulf of Mexico plus Gulf of America side by side. So it's fascinating what's happening. Fascinating. There's so much we can talk about, but I want to make sure that Michael has a chance to really engage with all of you, tell us about the work you're doing, and we have you for 30 minutes, right? Okay, so please welcome everybody, Professor Michael Cameron, a founder of, he's a leader on campus and elsewhere, and Michael, welcome to the Global Classroom, and I think we once had did we once chat here some time ago? Yeah, a long time ago, and we talked about maybe you would come in and, yeah, great.
Sorry, and
So,
then things get busy, yeah.
so
Used to projecting without one of these, so, but are you recording it? So you do, oh,
yeah,
you
yeah,
actually
yeah,
doing
we
it,
get
okay, all right.
like karaoke. That way we get
Yeah, no problem.
podcasty voice.
So what is this class?
What's that?
What is this class?
Okay, so this is Global Leader.
Okay.
This is Global Leader, and let me just all of the students here are either emerging global leaders or they're trying to understand more about leadership from a global perspective and
okay.
what we need to do to be effective working on a global stage and a local stage at the same time. So having that sort of local mindset, but developing that mindset and those skills to be able to succeed in a complex local world, but global first, local second.
So it's interesting just listening to you talk because you talk about a bunch of things I usually talk about, like singularities and got a paradigm shift.
Great.
That's happening right now and has been coming. There's also the, I can't remember, I've got 2 copies of that book, the 80-year cycle. And this is a common historical circle of events that has happened many times, but unfortunately, it's also happening at a time of where it has much bigger impact globally, right?
Yeah.
So that like we only get one shot to play this game, kind of thing. And it's interesting too because being an older guy who came from when the internet was invented.
We're the same age, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
No,
62, so yeah.
Well, 31 we are. Cool.
That's right.
So, you know, when the internet came, the interesting thing is it promised a lot of things. Nobody really understood how it worked. And I'm sure, like, I remember when I told somebody, I emailed them money and they're like, what are you talking about? Right. That was a big deal. But it was supposed to open the floodgates. You got to remember that. And I'm not sure what you're talking about, but I think I have some context. Is the interesting thing now that's different and what Google is doing with the map is countering that. There's a war, and there has been a war for a long time on the internet. In that, the thing that's always happened is somebody else usually has the power of distribution at some point or access. So historically, like say, if you wanted to be a musician, then you had to sign on with a music label. If you wanted to make a movie, you had to go through that.
Studio or something, yeah.
Somebody
company.
has the reins. And if you wanted to have political activism, you had to go join a party or do that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
The internet kills that because you wanna release a song, release it.
Hmm.
You wanna make a movie, make it. You want to talk to somebody, you want to put up something about activism, just do it. So, but that is not necessarily good for the system, which I think a subtext is why there's a arm wrestle for TikTok, right? Because the NSA doesn't own that, right? So
TikTok, by the way, the founder of TikTok was another tech titan at the inauguration, which is interesting. So
which is disturbing. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So, but the interesting thing is that literally, the internet can destroy borders on a large scale. The
Yeah.
institutions in power, that's not always good for them, right? Because you can't control the narrative. You can't, and that's an ongoing thing. That's why you have the Great Wall of China. That's why you have all those things. What I find fascinating for what I do on the gaming thing, and I usually do because I'm a teacher, I do connection activities. So if I get a lot of people in chat, and it's my hobby, right?
Yeah.
I'll find out where people are from, and they are from everywhere, which I think is just amazing, because that what's bringing us together is gaming, and then we can have other conversations, which I find fantastic. I mean, that wouldn't have happened before, and I've gone through a number of those gatekeepers before, and it was, but now it's like, you just turn your camera on and start talking, and then you're gonna see what happens, right?
Wow.
So there's the opportunity for that, and the same way there was the opportunity for me for esports, because the esports arena, that was my pilot project.
Yeah.
So, but I ended up talking to people all around the globe, connected with people who already knew how to make that happen, and it happened. The Global Classroom went through the same procedure as
That's
well.
right. That's
And
right.
that's the concept behind it. But I think you're seeing an arm wrestle for that because a big arm wrestle. But we'll see how that plays out. But I'm curious as how you see me fitting into your conversation.
Well, I'll explain because things have been moving pretty quickly. I asked Maureen to shoot Michael a quick email to see if he would be available. Normally, I would write our guest a longer email, but with 222 students in this, I'm handling this semester,
It's fantastic.
3 class. I'm just trying to really focus on the students and get the feedback. So I apologize for not directly contacting, because that's the way. But thanks for coming in live like this, even better. So I didn't tell Michael exactly what we're going to be doing, but I figured he would be able to handle it. He can dance, skate, So basically, the idea is this, okay? Today, I'd like to do a global leader class on gaming, but from the perspective of the idea of gamification and how gaming can be brought into the professional world, or your thoughts on how we can be using gaming in a much more sophisticated way to maybe solve problems, or as a tool in a toolkit that they have as emerging leaders. And remember, we're live on YouTube, okay? We're on a video conference system as well. So there are a lot of other people watching right now. They're out there in the cosmos, as I call them. Some of them are, the synchronous students right now, but then there are all the students watching the recording later, like the television show.
Right.
And I want to make sure that they have a chance to hear from a mind like yours, where we can go with gaming in terms of helping to solve professional problems, as opposed to just something that is more for entertainment. But see where you want to go with that, okay? But and in terms of the format, it's very interactive. When you speak, expect that a student may have a question, and if you go on for quite a while talking, then I may jump in and say, let's hear from the students, because this is their chance to
Not a problem,
engage.
yeah. Totally. Okay.
So,
Sure.
so is there anything you want to start talking about now in terms
Well,
of
I
that
think it's
idea?
interesting. Two things you're talking about is, and I was listening to what you're talking about dealing with it's a very complicated, constantly moving landscape. So in gaming specifically, I think you were watching that game that I play, League of Legends. There's a lot going on in that particular game, and one of the things that I think the reason I like it, by the way, test my brain,
It's up now.
keeps
Behind
me
you on your
alive and
left,
stuff
yeah.
like that. That particular game has probably about 40 different things moving at the same time. And like anything, what happens is, trying to, it's like golf. Golf is an easy game to learn. It's very difficult to master. League is easy to learn. It's difficult to master. So what you have to do is you start practicing and learning the components of that game, whatever it happens to be. Like there's a thing called CSing, which is trying to get the maximum value out of something, or doing this, or macro. So you have to practice and do those things enough that those things become reflex, and then so you solve one problem at a time. I mean, that's how I learned to play the game, right? I'm like, okay, there's about 50 problems. Which one am I going to solve first? Because I can't solve them all. And if you try and solve them all, I think you get overwhelmed. So, and I also work in IT, so I also try and teach my students in gamification. These two things go together. You take large problems and break them down to small problems, and then deal with the small problems. And then if you solve one small problem, then that will cascade.
The mic, yeah.
And one day you're like, oh, look, most of my problems are solved. Sir.
But he's got a mic. Yeah, go ahead. Good.
Sorry, just a quick question, because you do play League of Legends and you're looking at breaking down problems into smaller problems. I haven't played since Lord of Zero came out. How do you handle like toxic teammates inside an environment?
I
like
don't.
that?
I just mute them. So anybody being toxic, that's a reflection on them. That's got nothing to do with me, right? I'm no offense. We just met. Your opinion of me doesn't matter to me. It doesn't, right? So because I have to stay focused on what I want to do.
Yeah.
So now, having said that, I'm a big believer in Aikido, and I watch. You can see a political discussion. There's a lot of political discussions going on right now, but they're not political discussions. Just posturing and yelling.
Yeah.
So I find that's not teachable. That's not teachable. So what I try to be the opposite of that when I'm playing. You can talk to people in game, and most people are like, "What are you doing?" You know, right? So typically, what I will do is if somebody does something good, I type "Good job, well done, thank you," right? So I make my lead by example, right? So
Yeah.
me telling whoever that I like, not that I just don't disagree with your political opinion, but you're stupid because you have that opinion, is not really going to make you responsive, right? And there's a lot of stuff over there. Like one of the big, most powerful words in the world is why. Because people will tell you they believe something, but they don't tell you why, right? So if you go through it and ask why a couple of times, you will get to where they maybe don't have an answer. The why is because I've been told to, or this is what I've been led to believe, or this is the way it's always been. And I mean, we're humans. We're only here for a brief moment in time, and it's not always been this way. It's always been something else, right? And it always will be another thing. But I did want to touch on something.
Sure. Well, I just want to hold on to identify one thing, then keep going. We've already established in the first 3 classes of this semester that the fundamental force that we're all dealing with in this local world is complexity.
Right.
So for you to start talking about that immediately is great. Notice what he said about 40 different things that he's dealing with, moving parts. Okay, so problem solving in this world means dealing with something very complex, break it down, deal with those small things. That's really good experiential, direct from someone who knows knowledge about how you can start, Liam, getting past the complexity. Okay, so these are solutions in a way on how to get past the complexity. Keep going, Mike.
So that also ties into, I think, what you're talking about, and it's kind of a gamification. There used to be this great program called SETI at Home. Do you remember? Do you ever see that?
I know of it. Yeah.
It was a screensaver, and it was for the SETI project. They're just trying to identify radio signals and things like that that may be an actual signal. So that's a really big problem. So what they did was taking large amounts of data, broke it up into small pieces of data, and had it processed on people's home computers. So they'd all put them together. That concept of distributed computing led to Bitcoin and all these things, because not usually one person isn't doing it. It's a very complicated thing. So you get a bunch of people to do it, and it becomes a simple thing. So you have an opportunity, though, I think, in human interaction and global interaction and global problem solving of distributed computing, in that, the 20 of us here can only do so much work. But if we have 20,000 of us spread all over the planet, and we're all working on the same thing, you say, okay, well, you guys are going to work on this, you work on this, you work on that, we're going to work, and then together we can come up with some pretty big solutions.
It's a great distributive problem solving.
Yeah. And
Excellent. Excellent.
yeah, in computers, we call it distributed computing, which I'm looking forward to with the singularity. So I've been watching the singularity.
Yeah.
And what I tell people is that so there's an IT singularity, and there's a health singularity coming as well, like a health tech singularity coming along. And people don't really understand the power of exponential numbers. And COVID quite clearly explained that. I can't remember what the actual thing is, but a million seconds is like 30 days, and a billion seconds is like 3,000.
For all of you, the singularity idea actually started in science fiction. There's a science fiction writer called Werner Vinge. or Vinci, I think it is, who first introduced this idea. And singularity is a mathematical term. Believe it also applies in physics, and it's a term that's come to mean essentially the point at which everything is going to change irreversibly. And there are important people now who have said, particularly Ray Kurzweil, that 2029, he actually predicted this back in the end of the 20th century. Something like 80% of his predictions have come true. So he's a very important person. He's just published a new book that came out a few weeks ago called The Singularity is Nearer.
Oh, good.
It just came out.
Because I agree with him.
Yeah, the singularity is near. And so just keep in mind, as Michael refers to this term singularity, it's really important that you understand this in terms of what he's talking about, big picture. Go ahead.
Well, I think you also have the inverse of that too, because globalization has impacted everything massively over the course of our lifetime. And then what you're seeing now is corporations that, they don't have a country, they have no loyalty. There's just the corporation, right? And they're larger than companies. So they're using distributed computing instead of the other way around. So I think every problem or every piece of tech that we've ever had that's ever come, and I think that sounds like what you're talking about, is you've heard the old adage that of a double-edged sword, right? So a sword cuts both ways, right? So it can cut you.
Paradox of progress. This comes from William McNeill, great world historian. I teach this world history. It's the more power you get, the more responsibility you get. So it's never solving. It solves problems, but then you've got new problems. That's what you all live in as leaders. You're entering the world of great, powerful machines that increase the responsibility on you to use them intelligently. Otherwise, you will be used.
Well, I find that very interesting because you can use, clearly we can use tech for good or for evil, right? People just use it for what it's going to be used. And sorry, because I teach IT, when you remember when you first saw the little robot dog walking around? And I said to my class, I go, they're going to put a gun on that. They're like, nobody would put a gun on a robot dog, right? I saw that, yeah. But then the next thing you saw was drones. And I'm like, they're going to put a grenade on that. And then they go, nobody would do that. And then I saw the drone light shows. You seen the drone light shows? I go, they're going to put a grenade on every one of those things. And guess what they're doing, right? People are doing
and in
two
war
things
now. Ukraine and Russia. What's the war? It's the war of drones.
At the same time, though, we're getting beautiful light shows, which is fantastic. So really, you got to choose what you're going to do. So the same tech things you're talking about, I think, are also tools for problem solving if you're choosing to do something positive, right? So you can do distributed computing in that you can have, you're doing it right now in this classroom because there's you and everybody else that's around. You're getting the message out via other YouTube channels and things like that.
Yeah.
Some people are always going to try and keep control of that. So, literally you're going to use your power for good or for evil, but you have an unbelievable level of access to other people now that did not exist. Like, we're both old enough to remember when you phoned somebody, if they didn't answer the phone, you had to call them back. And maybe they're home, maybe they're not. Now, if I text my daughter and she doesn't get back in 5 minutes, I'm like, what's going on, right? So there's all sorts of ways that you can talk and communicate. I find it very interesting that I used to work in security a lot. Security now is becoming a much more inherent issue for anybody that's trying to enact effective change. Because it's not whether you're being watched or always being watched. So security, encryption, those kind of things like that. So this is what WikiLeaks was originally for, to get information out.
Yeah.
And the power, though, of that, I think people have found that that's very disturbing. What was the young man that...
Edward Snowden?
No, not
No.
Edward Snowden. No, the man that died. No, not him. The guy that the cops smothered or killed.
Yeah, which one?
Oh, it's a day that ends in Y. But no, which caused the big brouhaha in the States there a few years, or just post-COVID.
Oh, George.
Yeah.
The black American who was stomped on by the white.
Right, but you can see though that
Yeah.
distributed
jail now.
computing, like the word got out really fast, and a lot of people got upset really fast. Now this works
Yes,
two different ways
yes.
because you get cancer culture out of this, and people can jump to the wrong conclusions. But people got organized very, very quickly, and there was a response, and there was change. So that is an amazing, and that was a collection of numerous small organizations coming together to do a big change.
Let's
A
stop for a
systemic
second.
problem, right? So
Michael, just because we're starting to paddle down a good creek here, I want to get us back to the river and to the ocean, which is gamification.
Oh,
And
sure.
also, I'm conscious of your time, so we only have you for a certain amount of time. First thing is there anybody here that would like to ask a question, speak, talk to Michael for any kind of clarification? Please go ahead. Just give us your name. And I think Isaiah has brought is this Isaiah's friend? This is great. Bring people into this space so we can all learn together. What's your name?
Pierce.
Pierce, please go ahead.
So with gamification in relation to apps and just platforms that use games, and for the topic with education and using it for education, would you have a bias over, since you play League of Legends, games that I guess you could say incorporate lots of statistical data and functions that you have to stay on top of, or games and apps that are similar to Duolingo and they're a bit more direct on a single path with learning a language, but there's not as much functions that you have to manage at once? And which one do you think in the future would be more demanded?
You mean, so are you talking about in the context of problem solving on
Yeah.
social global? Well, I think I'm a big believer in KISS, right? Keep it simple, stupid. So if you want to get your information out, but you want to gamify it, keep it very straightforward. I mean, most companies, like, like points, that's a very simple, companies have gamified
Yeah.
things, right? It's like the buy 4 coffees, get 1 free thing.
Like a reward system
It's
of
a
some
different
point.
reward system, yeah. I remember talking to a large company about making this very complicated game to support their mutual funds and stuff. I said, just do a survey and do a giveaway. Keep it simple. You want to get engagement, so you really got to ask yourself what you're trying to do. And if you're trying to get people out there, I would keep it very straightforward. I mean, this is a different level of thing. I don't think it applies to this problem, but breaking it down to say, has your organization done this? Have you done a newsletter? Have you done this? And that's the points. And then you could probably, and so I use this in my class all the time. It's absolutely amazing. I do in-class labs. And whoever finishes first gets to put their name on the board. People will hustle to be the first.
Oh, I like that. Whoever gets first goes and puts their name. Well,
Right? It's a very simple thing, and I give points. I give
Yeah,
points for
yeah.
doing things. Some students will not spend their points because they just want to know that they have their points. So I think from that point of view, like if you, I'm just imagining right now, you have a social change app, and then you have an organization that you're onboarding. Here are the things we'd like you to do. Here are the points thing. We can display those. You can see what other groups are doing, right? And people will hustle. And then also, more importantly more than anything else, and I think I sense this from your discussion, it's very difficult to feel like you're making any difference or getting any headway.
oh, and it leads to such nihilism today, which is like a rejection of everything because you think you're powerless. And what I'm always trying to do is help people see that no, you just have to be smarter. You have to understand digital agency and learn to really, take advantage of these tools and technologies. And then you've got to have the confidence and the vision and then get out there and you can make a difference. No question.
Well, this is apropos because I'm having a bit of an existential crisis because, there's a whole thing. If you don't say anything, then you've said nothing, whatever will happen. So I don't want to have an argument with people because apparently the internet was originally designed so you could look at pictures for cats, right? But now it's to argue with people, strangers. I don't want to do that. But I'm an educator, so what I can do is educate, right? So in my chat, occasionally I have chat days, and you can talk about anything. I just don't talk about party politics, those kind of things, because you can't win. But what you can do is talk about politics in general. And by the way, my original degree is political science and philosophy, so not IT, right? So, but I started IT when IT was invented, so it was a different animal. So I can talk about those things in context and talk about a bigger picture in an educational way without having an adversarial relationship with you.
This is great because I am learning as Michael goes on that there's a lot of roots in this big tree sitting right there. That so Pierce, do you feel like you got your question answered, or do you
Answer
want to
your
follow
question?
up and want to make sure it's great what you're asking?
I'd say so with my own biases, because what I got from that was you could have an app or a game like Duolingo and you could learn a skill from it, or you could have a system that rewards the traits and habits that will just make that person a good leader or motivated or have some type of incentive to act good. And I'm more on that side because it's more foundational.
Yes.
So that's what I got from that with the board example.
Well, I have a question for Pierce because it's always great to have the students engaged. This is the critical part. Pierce, from a standpoint of leadership, which I think you instinctively get, and I know from what Isaiah told me as well that you're interested in this big
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah.
So, clearly you're going to be in a position of some leadership if you're not already. How would you gamify anything in your sort of leadership style to make you a more effective leader?
I would say similar to the response I got, I'd say gamifying the simple things, as in the most foundational aspects of what any person, just like just the traits and little habits. So I work at a studio, a recording studio, and with the artists that come in, if I have a goal of maybe making this artist write better, or something like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
they have an ego and they have their biases and they have too much pride and they don't want to take advice. I'd have to come up with some way of breaking that wall
Yeah,
that they have
yeah,
up,
yeah.
but not just that, making sure that once it's down and they do whatever the plan is, that they feel good, that there's some sort of incentive for it. So I think that's what that point system is all about. And what I would usually do is figure out what bias they do have, and if I want them to rap faster, but they don't listen to fast rap music,
Yes.
I'd find out who their favorite rapper is and try and find the best example of them rapping fast, and then say, "You could do it. We got 30 minutes. You did great already.
Yeah.
Look at your competition. You could do better than them. Let's hit it." And rather than making an actual game, just trying to leverage the things
Sure.
to enhance things that they could leave with, like traits and biases.
Well, thank you for stepping into the class. He's not officially a student here. He's just walked in today with Isaiah, who's a student and always has some good critical ideas. And it's excellent that you can help. And what students have been saying a lot in the reflections is that they really like hearing from other students. I've worked hard with Maureen in the college to make this a technically sophisticated space. That's why I have a microphone like this. I spent $700, my own money, to get this microphone so that when people are watching the live stream and elsewhere, they're getting a clear voice. It's technically sophisticated. Then they can hear what's going on. And so all of you speaking into the microphone like this makes your voices clear. And there are all these people out there who are watching and learning from what you say. This is important. So is there anyone else here who would like to add anything? You don't have to, okay? Tanisha, go ahead, all right? And just you go when you gotta go, okay? Just say, "I gotta go," and we'll let you go. So Tanisha, and then online as well, if there's anything in the Cosmos, park your questions in the live chat, and we'll have hopefully some time to check in with the live chat on YouTube as well. We'll see. Tanisha, go ahead.
So what you can say, like a traditional person. I always had my reservations about gaming, that you can become addicted, and that you would not learn like that much if you're playing games all day, all night. So I'm starting to change my perspective. But as humans, we are easily getting addicted to things like coffee, gaming, everything. So how can you stop being addicted to gaming and just not playing games all night, not showering, not eating? You get what I mean? Like wasting your life in front of a screen. Because nowadays, like, especially I don't see it, but if you go in England, everywhere, everyone wearing headphones. No one is interacting with anyone. It's just headphones. They are in their world of headphones. And if you look at everywhere, they're just like they're in their own world. As humans, I feel like we are becoming like machines. Like we are not interacting with other humans. Nobody is in subway saying like, "Hello, how are you? Or where are you from?" Like no one is interacting. I guess there's a fear of like strangers also, but time is really different. And how do you stop yourself becoming like a machine in front of a machine by playing games?
Okay, I'm going to stop you to make sure Michael has time to answer this because this is a good question.
Well, it's
Go for
actually a very multifaceted question and probably bigger than that's a whole I'm going to say podcast on it itself. So,
Sure.
but I'm just going to touch on a couple of points. One is, and I'm going to leave you with something that helps me a lot. So don't forget, I've learned things as I've gotten older, right? Because I learned that it was not very important for me to rush home and to harvest my berries in Farmville. I want all the time in my life that I played Farmville back, right? So, but there's a lot of good information about how, and you should take this as well. Like you are what you eat. And there's a lot of evidence, and I was doing research on this and I got sidelined by other stuff, is how gaming affects your brain. So for example, average person tracks 4 to 5 objects. Somebody who plays first person shooters tracks 6 to 7. Pro players track 12. So if you want to increase your driving skill, play a little bit of first person shooter every week. Now, here's the thing, and you touched on it too, because it sounds like you're dealing with young people. So I'm going to recommend a book to you. It's called The Ego is the Enemy.
The ego is the enemy, Scribe.
Beautiful. It's a great book. I wish I had read it when I was younger, but my ego was so much in front of my face, I don't think I would have taken the advice. Right. So the thing that, and I've played video games a lot, and it's been important. But then, so as you get older, you get new DLC, you get wisdom, you get those kind of things. So the question is, what am I getting out of it? So I am different in playing this game because I'm doing something, and people watch me for a different reason. I am not obsessed with my rank. It's a nice way to keep score, but it's got nothing to do with my life. You know, people are like, well, you're only bronze. I'm like, yeah, my car is paid for. My students are doing well. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're in your mom's basement. Let's relax. You know, so I always ask myself this question now, because I'm kind of a believer in Zen and these kind of things. Like that, is
You're a Buddhist.
to a little
A secret
bit.
Buddhist.
I don't identify as
Ooh.
anything, but I'm more of a stoic. But it's
Okay. Oh, a Stoic. Okay.
I always ask myself this question: to what end?
To what end?
Because I got ADD. I get a lot of crazy ideas.
Yeah.
I'm like, so I go, let's do it. I go, whoa. Do you want to run a variety store? No, I don't. Right. So do I want to reinvent the wheel? No, I don't. So to what end? So gaming has a lot of value. There's huge conversations. I like it because it's active. I still play video games with my friends that I met 40 years ago in an arcade. And a lot of times it really doesn't matter what game we're playing because it's just an extended phone call. My daughter will call me up and we'll play World of Warcraft. It is a vehicle. It can be a vehicle. And a lot of people connect online with their online friends now. So other people are connecting in very different ways that you're saying. The technological isolated society is an ongoing thing, and that's a much bigger picture. So, and addiction is addiction, right? So, I watch how much I play, what I play, and when I play, right?
So you regulate. You self-regulate.
Yeah, to a certain extent. I also use it for task switching because the reason I play that game is that each game runs about 30 minutes, right? And so I need to defrag my brain on an ongoing basis. So I'll play one game and then I go do other stuff and I come back and play another game. I only play a lot of games in a row when I'm streaming. But even then, I only do a short stream. I see another quick question over here.
We'll come back to Tanisha, but I want to make sure. Akil, right? Yeah. Hemil.
I know this
Yeah,
guy. I know this guy.
Yeah.
He's got more hair than the last time. You
Go
blew
ahead.
that out nice. You're looking good, buddy.
Michael's got 5 minutes left, and then he's just going to leave. Okay, he's going to become a ghost. So we got to make sure we get the best.
How are you, brother?
Yeah, go ahead.
Good, and you?
Good.
Okay, so you still playing in the top lane, no, in league?
Yeah.
Only in the top lane.
No, I do middle and I do jungle. I was going through a jungle arc as well.
Oh, okay, so most of it is top lane. And what I know about the top laner is most of it you play like alone.
So they call top lane an island because you're kind of isolated from everybody else. And it's a bit of a coin flip. You have to win that lane to have an impact on the game. So it's problematic. It's difficult. Yeah.
So as a top laner, that mean like if you are a leader, do you prefer like to work alone in that case? Because most of it like do you have like the same thing in real life? Like most of your time want to play alone, not like not more like with people.
I do both.
You do both.
So yeah, I do both. So I'll sit at home and do work. And I'll put tasks together and I'll start doing that. But then I want to work with other people. You can't lead alone. You're leading nobody.
Yeah.
Right. You're both ends of the donkey at that point, my friend. Right. So
Yes.
right. So
alone.
and now when I am playing alone because I'm not under the same pressure everybody else is because they're dealing with more moving objects.
Yes.
In game you can ping and say watch out for this, watch out for this. So I'll watch the map for other people and say watch out for this guy coming to kill you. And then as a top laner, my job is to rotate when I'm needed.
Yes.
So I will come in and join everybody else and make sure. And here's the other thing too, is for example, I'm just going to take League as an example. The objective is to win the game. A lot of people are very focused on getting kills. That doesn't necessarily win the game. People can be in love with the idea of doing business, but actually not doing business. People can be in love with the idea about solving problems, but not actually solving the problems.
And jungler to steal your kills as a top laner.
But I don't care because
Yeah.
he's dead and I want the tower. That's not my right. My ego is not my objective. I only care about that tower right there. That tower. That's all I care about.
Yes.
As long as we get there, what do I care? So ego can be very impactful and because if people want credit. You know what I mean? I always wanted credit when I was a kid. Now I don't. I go sit in the arena. Nobody knows I made that arena, but I watch them play. It's a big tree I planted, and I get to sit in the shade of it. You know what I mean? So
Ego is the enemy.
ego
is the enemy.
Ego
Yeah.
totally is the enemy. So you can do both. So you got to ask yourself this question: whatever problem you're trying to solve, am I solving it for what's best for me, or am I solving what's best for the problem?
Well, also, as he said, I think is such a simple KISS kind of sort of statement. You know, keep it simple, stupid. You can't lead alone.
Do you know where I learned that, by the way?
That is a wonderful. Think about how that resonates. Think that it's got a lot of roots in that. Go ahead.
I learned that in the army.
You learned that. You did. You did.
Yeah. So and I teach
Marine or in the army?
in the army, the Canadian Army. Yeah. And that's where you've been in my classes. I use the 3 T's. I use scaffolding. These are all techniques I learned in the military. So and I apply them here, right? So skills can be transferable just about anywhere.
Absolutely.
I was busy. I got stuff to do. Trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. You know what I mean? So.
Well, ask him about his intelligence work. No, I don't.
So
I'm just
I
making this
think
up.
you got to look at both. Everything is two things all the time, right? So and what is it you really want, right? So there's an old. If I can give you one more phrase, I'm an old guy, so I get to say old phrases. So and I wish I'd learned this when I was younger. But begin with the end in mind, right? So when you're talking to a young rapper and stuff, you got to say they're focused on this thing. What is your goal? Well, I want to be famous. Well, these are the things you need to do. These things are in the way of. These are stopping you. You are stopping you, right? Or we are stopping.
Yeah.
And you have unlimited access to other people of like minds, and you can find them, which is pretty phenomenal. And then you can
Absolutely.
organize them, and then you can address them in smaller things. And that's the way I would gamify that, which is phenomenal. And you're doing it right now, which is pretty cool. So,
Well, listen. It's 11 o'clock. Okay. Can we give Michael a huge hand for just, stopping by and sharing? Yeah, and I hope we can do this. Well, likewise, and I hope that we can have another class, and maybe you come into the world history class, and we'll get really philosophical about humans. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Michael. Thank you so much. Yeah, for coming in, and we have time. By the way, all of you, we're going to be doing a good activity in a moment, but let's decompress a little bit, and we're going to discuss together just a few important points that Michael has helped us to see and see what you think are the critical points for our scribe, Afoma, to get in there. And then we're going to go to the screens as teams, and we're going to do an activity together based on this. Alec, let me take the microphone and make sure, Tanisha, you can give it to me, and I'll move it around. Okay, so here you go.
So what I really appreciated of that is someone that used to play video games professionally. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
A lot of people in gaming nowadays usually kind of overthink or overcomplicate things when it really truly is just trying to keep it simple.
Yeah, but that's easier said than done. I mean, if you think about it, we're talking about complexity being the biggest force you're going to deal with in your lives, and then we're saying keep it simple. The bridge from complexity to KISS
No,
is
but
a long bridge. How you get there, But you're right. I
no,
think.
But the issue a lot of people have is they overcomplicate things. They'll look at a problem and they'll look at it and be like, "There's 1,000 ways to solve this."
Right.
When you should always start with the simplest ways to solve things first, because those usually help. In the tech industry or in the tech field, even here at school, the first thing we're taught is to start from the easiest solutions.
Makes sense. And how might gamifying help you to simplify?
Because if you look at something from a game like aspect or perspective, you can usually break things down into smaller, like you said, smaller pieces,
yeah.
and that helps you simplify what you're looking at. And if you can simplify what you're looking at, coming up with a solution is easier.
Very good. Very good. I'll get the microphone to Tanisha, and then do we have anything in the YouTube live chat? Probably not, but we should just do a quick check because sometimes people park things there. Go ahead, okay?
My question is, why can't we use like traditional ways of improving our minds? You got Sudoku, you got puzzles. Why not that? And why games? Like why we depend on machines to develop our minds when we have human created ones Yeah, we can improve our minds. Like I have heard like dementia patients, if they play Sudoku, that
Yes.
it can reduce your dementia level, but they don't say play games.
Yeah.
They don't say that. So why
So,
people miss that?
Tanisha, listening to Michael and being the realist slash, and um, I say this supportively, the realist slash pessimist that you might be. Did he help you to see that maybe machines can be a force of emancipation to free up and help as opposed to sort of kind of making us less human? Go, go. Okay, because I know I say this because I teach in Humanities Destiny, my afternoon class, and there's a lot of students who come in and they're quite dystopian in their thinking. And I am a bit too. I'm a bit like you too, believe me. So did you feel he opened you a little bit to
The
possibilities?
thing is, like, I'm very reserved about having like giving my control to a game to improve my mind. I would rather read a book, be critical in my mind, do a puzzle, do something. Like I'm traditional in that sense, but I know that we have to move with the technology. But does that mean gaming is the only thing that can improve our minds?
Well, this is great. I'm going to Alec, and because we might even need a separate microphone for the two of, what's that? You have to, Mayree's got something. We're right on the raw nerve here, okay? Which is excellent. It gets philosophical, but this is, machine human. This is stuff you're going to be dealing with constantly in your children and your grandchildren. Machine human. Okay.
There's so many ways I could break this down, but I used to work in the healthcare industry for 8 years. So I'm going to first speak on the point that you said the Sudoku was helping with people. Actually, the Nintendo Wii, when it first came out, also helped a lot of people as well. People with physical disabilities, people that with mental disabilities. It actually helped them be able to do things that they wouldn't normally be able to do. It gave them that opportunity because not everyone is able-bodied. Not everyone is able to do things that they want to do the way they want to do things. Second point, as someone that, like I said before, I played in professional gaming in different events. These things had taught me a lot of things. I learned about leadership skills. I learned about working as a team. I learned about communication with people, how to get people to understand what I'm trying to think at those critical moments, and to come up with solutions on the fly. Because
Absolutely.
as he was saying, for a FPS gamer, you're constantly thinking, okay, I just beat the enemy at this point. Where am I going next? What am I doing next? Where am I doing? These things are taught and you can learn. And actually, a lot of studies have shown that gaming has increased critical thinking almost 76%.
Well, do you want to try responding to that? Because this is great information, okay? And I'm just going to be whiplash. I'm going to go back and forth like this, okay? But make sure you guys have the microphone. What you say is being listened to by a lot of students, so go for it.
But the thing is, you don't find gun shootings because young people's minds are watching games. They are so drawn to violence that they get a gun, go to a school, shoot everyone, and later you find out that they have been playing gun violence games. You don't find that in people who's doing Sudoku.
Sure.
No one is going to a hospital or a school with puzzles and try to kill people. So
is it fair to say, because I think you've raised a very good point, how do we deal with the endless violence and aggression in gaming? Okay, because and Isaiah's got something. We'll go to Mayreen. We'll let Mayreen. Mayreen has priority first. Okay, she had something to say. Okay, and then we'll give it to Isaiah. Okay, go for it. Okay.
National Health Organization has proven that violence in video games has actually reduced human-eyed violence by almost 57%.
Okay, hold on. Now I want to make sure. Who's the source?
It's the National Health Organization.
U.S. Okay, fair
They
enough.
have a lot of
U.S.
because
pre-Trump, because everything
pre-Trump,
Trump is
sorry.
going to be.
Sorry, this is Obama era.
Okay, because Trump is firing everybody now that disagrees with him
Yep.
in the government. And he's turning the United States into a big Trump organization.
This study was done because of the school shootings in the States and has proven that gaming actually reduces violence by 57% because it gives people an outlet.
That's an important piece of information, and I want to make sure it's true. So 57%. Okay, but that's great. Okay, so Tanisha, I'm going to assume that that's true because I know Alec a little bit, and he's a smart guy, you know, and he understands what we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to take this as true for the moment that you have just quoted from a study that 57%. Say it again of
57%. It's reduced violence by 57%.
okay, whatever that means, but
Yeah,
what
no,
it,
because the way they did the study was they found that people that played games were less likely to conduct violence in their real life because they've already been conducting it in a virtual space.
okay, let's go back, and then we'll go to Maureen and Isaiah. And given the level of conversation now, which is excellent, I'm going to say we put the activity aside for the moment, and we keep this wave going. Okay, we're all on our surfboard. We got a good wave that we're surfing right now. Okay, so, and this is good stuff. Go ahead.
So you are telling that by looking at the internet, by looking at data. I'm telling this from a personal experience of a teacher who has been teaching for 6 years. I have seen so many students, children especially, under 10 years of age, who are playing like violent video games at homes, act the same way in schools. And when we get into a behavioral therapist and when we talk with the parent, the solution is stop playing games like that and let the kid interact with other children naturally. Like instead of giving a tablet, play this, I'm going to do my home like housework. Like mom might be giving the tablet to the child to play video games. They don't monitor. And what happens is the child acts the same way in the school, pushing, punching. And when you get into the behavioral therapist level, their suggestion is stop giving them the tablet, limit screen time.
Okay, okay. Let's make sure you. Alec, while you're still looking, Isaiah, do you want to take the mic, and then we'll come to Maureen, okay? But again, thank you for always bringing up these important points. You did this last week with Sri Lanka, and we had a very good conversation about that. So you know what you have that is a very good leadership quality. You have courage. No, you will stand and say what you believe, and it doesn't matter what everybody else is saying. You go out. That is a very important part of leading. You don't have the fear of what other people are going to say. Okay, no, but this is Isaiah. Go ahead.
Um, I find some validity in Maureen's point. Like I think there's value to what she's saying, but when you kind
Tanisha or Maureen?
of
Tanisha, yeah,
Tanisha, sorry.
Tanisha, yeah.
If you kind of like extrapolate a bit from what Michael was saying, I think he was really trying to get a point point across that gamification can provide some value by, yes, like we said previously, breaking down some things, but just also like finding value in yourself and like reaffirming that. So I think that's really important. But
Yes.
like her point of like, oh, it promotes violence or whatever, some other like not good habits, like you said about children using tablets. I think exposure to technology when like someone has an underdeveloped brain or like showing a lot of violence, like that obviously has repercussions that can affect society negatively. But like I think these tools as an outlet, when someone has a bit more like conscious awareness and like understands what it is, like it can provide like some value, like he said, like increased neurocapacity, just an outlet, like creating systems to like that will provide structure in your life. I'm not, obviously like addiction is addiction,
Yes.
but some people really do find value in games. Like they can only talk to people like on the internet. I don't agree. I don't think children under like 12 should have their own personal devices and like unfettered access to the internet. But I think someone who understands the power of the internet and that there's context to everything can find it very impactful in their life going forward.
Thanks, Isaiah. That's it. I'm going to move it around, okay, Tanisha, because I want to make sure. Maureen, go ahead, okay, and
I just want, in terms of like gamification, I just wanted to add that before like Apple came up with the whole like fitness thing and the watch and closing your rings, they had this app available on the App Store. It was called Zombies Run, and it said
Zombies Run.
And essentially, you would like be running in real like life, and they would like have audio playing, and then you have an app where it would track like, okay, if you finish like these many kilometers or whatever, it would like give you items and stuff. So I think that's like a way for motivation of like you continue doing it.
Yeah.
Let's say if you're like
Yeah.
addicted to that, then might as well you'll be fitter, right?
Right.
But as like personally, as like someone who games, I do find that limiting myself, like self-regulation, is important because we live in a society and we live in times where dopamine is so easy to,
Absolutely.
kind of overdose on it.
Yeah.
Really like, scrolling, doom like
That's the
endless
addiction.
scrolling and all of
Where the
that.
addiction is. Yeah.
Scrolling and then gaming and everything, like it like you can tell like, you're kind of like it's too much. So yeah, for sure you have to like limit it and just use it in the right way, which as opposed to
Well,
using
it gets us to that
negatively.
emotional intelligence EQ thing where you have to start to really be mindful of yourself and and understand when the dopamine has really got you. And you're at your game for so long you're putting a diaper on. I mean, you hear these stories out of the world where young people are in gaming for so long they won't go to the bathroom, so they sit in their well, especially everywhere these days. But okay, let's keep this is first, let's remind ourselves what we're doing, okay, as we paddle into a great conversation. And we are trying to understand how to gamify things professionally to help us and help the world be better at leadership as a tool, okay? But we're also learning from what students are saying, Tanisha, Pierce, Alec, Isaiah, and others, that actually there's a bit of a problem when you have a lot of gaming involved because maybe the dopamine gets really released. You're just loving it so much, you get addicted, and then you're lost. You're a human that's just gone down that big rabbit hole that's opened up to a massive crevasse, and you're falling to the center of the earth like Gandalf, Lord of the Rings, falling off a bridge. Okay, so is it Ethan? Not Ethan. It's Calvin. Calvin Kloss. Yeah. Go ahead.
I agree with you that there's a lot of like unhealthy habits that come along with gaming, but I think that gaming could also solve some of the problems that gaming also caused. Like,
Hmm.
for example, Pokemon Go, when it first released,
Yes.
that brought so many gamers outside their house and walking around and brought so many people together when traditionally the Pokemon games were played on a console
Right.
or on a handheld and people would just be inside
Alone. Or
alone
but yeah.
gaming for hours. So I think Pokemon Go actually solves some of its own issues in that way.
Great point. Tanisha, I want to hear, but I want to keep going, okay? Because you're listening to things that might challenge you, okay, Ethan? And finally, I just want to check with the FOMA. Are you still good? Because because the notes are great, okay? This is all stuff that goes into the folder afterwards. Who's next? Ethan? Yeah, you're good? Okay. Okay, Alec is working on it. Okay, Isaiah, you want to come back, give it to Pierce, and then we'll move it around a little bit and keep going. Okay, Pierce.
I think this discussion is funny to me because I think it's a new age dilemma in the most exaggerated sense that maybe in a couple of decades there'll be a split with familial conduct, with some of them being really predicated with using devices and games to try and teach their kids extra quick, and more, I guess you could say, traditional families,
Yes.
which would almost be my bias, that says read books, get all your notes down, memorize, and if you want to learn a new skill or see something new, go outside, go for a run,
Right.
go in the forest.
Yeah.
And I, in a really exaggerated way, I could see that could be a dystopian movie on its own. And maybe a kid that comes from a traditional area goes to a high school that's now digital.
Yeah.
And he has to find his place politically and just all of that. So the question that I always think
It's good.
that kind of prompts my bias to stay on the side where it's all about balance to me, but I have a bias towards the more traditional because the question to me is, in terms of dopamine and in terms of incentives towards gaining skills,
Yes. Exactly.
what game or what can you do in real life without a game that a game also can't
Keep
do?
going, and let some, or maybe let him in. Okay, he does it. Keep going. Yeah. Just push the door. You got it.
Yeah, I'm wording that a bit weird, but in terms of the dopamine reactions and all the neural activity, say you're playing Wii and you want your child to have a bit more of interest towards baseball, and you're like, let's get him to play it on the Wii. You can do that if you just take him to the baseball diamond every single day, eventually, considering that he actually wants to do it.
Right.
So I just feel like you could do it either way, but the fact that we've always been able to do it without the digital almost makes it seem like it's the old-fashioned, old reliable.
But at the same time, you
to me.
could
But
say
there's
now,
best of both worlds.
Pierce, you could say now, well, it's winter. You want to play baseball? Let's go online. Right? That's the crazy. So, I mean, listen, let's come back to that big thing and then we'll keep moving it around. Tanisha, the double-edged sword or the paradox of progress or the contradiction of progress is always so relevant here, which is the more power we gain with our technologies, the more problems we have in figuring out how to use them so they don't use us. That's all. And in that, in learning how to use these technologies, maybe there's room for the human to grow now, to understand how to use a new tool and become somehow a better human in the way that that human has used this new tool, as opposed to rejecting it and saying, I don't want that. The human is saying, I'm going to figure out what I need to do emotionally, mentally, to allow that tool to become part of my life and not take over my life. This requires real something new. The coming of the new mind, as Jacob Bronowski told us, but that's something else. The coming of the new mind. Who's next here? Because these are excellent. Alec, and you want to update us on the research?
Yeah, so I just wanted to. So apparently, reduction rate is 37.5%, not 57. So I didn't make a mistake there.
Okay, let's stop for a second and work with Alec on this because he gave us a very important piece of information. I just want to check in with everybody and make sure. Are you fine with me blowing off the activity at the screens today? Because I'm always going to go where I think things are happening, which is we have a good conversation. I want to take it to where it should go, and then we have insight. The critical thing is you guys learned. I don't care how you do it in this classroom, but when I sense we're learning, I'm going to stay with that. So I'm going to stay with this. One of the things about great leadership, as we've talked about, is your source of information. You know, I know that you're living in a time where all this information is coming at you online, and a lot of it is BS, a lot of it is made up, a lot of it is algorithms, a lot of it is, you don't know what's true. And the worst thing is, if we're working for or with a leader who has been duped in thinking, then we're really lost. So we as leaders have a responsibility to have the best information. I'm going to assume for now that Alec's source is a credible one. Can you give us, so we can be convinced before we go and say 30% or 40% is right, before we put that information up there, I want to be certain.
It's a article written or published in the National Library of Medicine.
National Library of Medicine,
Yes.
that's a US, and do we know who that is? Is it transparent in the sense that there's some kind of people listed
Yeah,
on the website?
like it literally has everything. What do you want me to list?
Well, who funds the National Library of Medicine?
Apparently, it is the United States government.
Okay. So we go to NASA for space, and that's a US agency. So a smart person is going to say right now, the fact that we're going to put up there is given to us by a US government agency. We can accept that for the moment. I would rather it be an independent source, like a really good journalist or a really good scientist or a really good scholar who has nothing in terms of a vested interest. I worry, but I might be extreme here, okay? I worry that information that he's giving us is serving the US government first, not us, the people.
For reduced violence or aggression in Vietnam?
But maybe for the sake of our conversation, to move this along, I think you get my point about.
No,
a
no, but could I say something? Because the U.S. government has a very high stance of saying that video games cause violence, but this article is saying it doesn't. So I'm just trying to understand where that correlation would come from.
I have a question to you.
Hold on, I want to make sure, Tanisha, because we don't go default with you today, okay? Just this is good though. Isaiah, is everybody contributing? Aaron, is there anything you want to say? You're good, and Kenza just came in, so you're okay. Akil, go ahead. Okay, take the mic, and then we'll come back to Tanisha. Okay, yeah, and Isaiah.
Believe Alec if he says he have seen a fish was walking.
S-
I will believe him if he says like in the information. If he says I saw a fish was walking.
Yeah, you would believe him. Yeah, exactly.
Because it's impossible like he give like information that's not trusted. Like as we see every time he talks, he only use facts. He only
He's good.
use-
If Alec told me an elephant's flying over the global classroom right now, I probably believe him too, because I know he's good. But what? Okay, so let's just say, for the sake of ensuring we can move the conversation, that this is a pretty good source. Pretty good source. So what's the fact? What is it again? Because this is that violent behavior, and the idea, the correlation is.
Between video games and violence is non-existent.
But what's the fact? It's 30.
Sorry, hold on.
Yeah.
No, I'm just trying to find the actual table again.
Because this is the idea we're exploring, which is violent behavior is not caused by.
Yeah, so they
gaming.
said out of the people they tested a range of 2,200 young adults, both male and female.
Okay.
They said that I believe it was 67% of students had no. Oh, sorry. Here it is. 62.50% of male participants had no increase in aggression, and 37.5 actually showed a lower amount of aggression after playing video games.
Did you get that, Scribe, Afoma? Do you feel you can get that down, or you want us to
And
60
on
repeat
the-
that? 'Cause
sorry.
this is good in 60%.
62.5% of male participants didn't show any increase in aggression. 37.5 showed a decrease in aggression.
Okay. But some showed an increase.
Female side, it was 65.38, so no signs of increased aggression, and 34.62 showed less aggression.
We'll put that into the notes after to make sure it's accurate, because things are moving now, okay? But we all get it. We all get that Alec has just brought to us something important, which is that gamification and gamings do not, according to studies, cause more violent behavior among
This is
young
one study. You have to remember.
2,200.
Yeah, but you should also
2,200.
remember that other studies are also. I haven't checked out
Okay.
to who've done those ones, but in this study that I've read, it shows a decrease in aggression. There are studies that show an increase in aggression as well.
Okay.
But as you said before, it depends on the source, and the source
Yeah,
of that is
yeah.
usually the United States government.
Who to believe? But we have to. I'm afraid, and I go through this too when I mark your papers all the time. Who's using ChatGPT? Who's trying to BS me? So this is just part of being a human being in 2025. Is you're trying to figure out what's going on here. So you got to be calm to deal with this, to go down that and be critically thoughtful. Isaiah?
I get the point Alex trying to make, but I think it's really important that we distinguish between gaming and gamification. Like gamification is referring to like building systems in your life to operate more effectively. Like playing video games is like an outlet for some people.
Right.
Um,
Good point.
However, I think like you said, like there may not be like a direct correlation, but I definitely feel like gaming may influence people because it does give you like exposure to these concepts. I don't think it's as strong as an issue as that we've come to believe. Like it's definitely been used as like a fear mongering tool and an answer to the question of like why all these terrible acts of violence happen. But I think that conversation like is a lot more nuanced and it devolves into like structures of society and how people are represented and also their experience and not feeling well. Like we have places like Reddit and 4chan that like are these like breeding grounds for these like groups. Like maybe some people are going there for like gaming reasons, but it devolves into these things where these groups are allowed to form under the guise of talking about different concepts, right? So I think there has to be a distinction between like playing
And
games.
gamification.
Yeah, gamification.
Absolutely.
I think we're getting a little bit
Thanks.
lost in that.
Go ahead, Alec, and then we'll come. Yeah.
In the study as well, just a quick addition, it said that most, if any aggression was shown afterwards, further research into it showed that those people had other influences in their community, either family
Yeah.
influences or community influences. that increased-
Exactly. That's leading them to the violent behavior. You know, there's more there. Yeah. Great. And for anything online, Liam, I just want to say that if there's anything you want to add, just hold your thought, okay? Because I'd like to come back to you. You started this today with a great question about how to get past complexity, and I'm hoping we're doing it. Okay, Aaron, go ahead.
So I think gaming does influence violent behavior because depends on the game you play. So I'll give you an example of GTA 5 and Call of Duty. So GTA 5 is a very reality-based game. People rob banks, people, drive crazy around the world. GTA 5,
GTA 5.
Grand Theft Auto.
Okay.
So when you play the game, yes, you love to drive fast, you love to shoot cops, you love to drift around, you love to, and in some parts of the game, you have to plan theft. So you find that with time, you playing the game, you get addicted to the game. And when you get addicted to the game, what you play in the game begins to interest you. So you now get addicted to, or you get interested in seeing people drift cars, which is illegal, on the street. You get interested in hearing, oh, these guys actually robbed this place. Like I've done that in the game.
Can you repeat that just for the Cosmos? Repeat it for the Cosmos.
So you're saying that the Grand Theft Auto is causing people to drift cars and rob banks and do the things in Grand Theft Auto, but where are your facts and the basis that those are actually influencing people?
So I've played Grand Theft Auto before, and currently I play Call of Duty, but I
So-
can assure you, if you give me a gun now, I can't fail to operate it because I've
No, but you can fully operate it. But would you? If I gave you a gun, would you operate a gun and shoot?
Yes, I believe I can because the game
No,
has
not
made
if
me
you
feel
can,
like
would you do it?
yes. To assemble it, yes, I would.
Okay, now this is great.
Yes, I
What do you
would.
mean by would you? What do you mean by would you?
No, he's saying so. In Call of Duty, you play a soldier. You shoot other soldiers.
Yes.
It's a gun where you purposely kill people.
Yeah.
So he's saying that a video game will influence what he does.
Yes.
So I'm saying if I gave him a gun, would he shoot someone? And he's saying he would.
Well, I want to make sure you understood that because we're right on a great
Okay.
raw nerve
Let me
here.
give you an example, yeah? Let's say I get attacked and then somehow I get a gun. I
Yeah.
can't fail to use
No,
that gun. to
yes, but
defend
that's not in
myself.
Grand Theft Auto. In Call of Duty,
Come a little
you're
closer.
getting attacked. But I'm saying, so if I gave you a gun right now, you would shoot someone.
For no reason, no.
Yeah. But so that's not increasing your
But
aggression.
I have the ability to because I've learned that from the game.
Oh, wow, fascinating. Okay, Kinza, come in. We got Mayreen, we got this, and we've got 10 minutes left. Take the microphone, okay? Give it to Kinza. We'll come to Alec, and you're good because we've got lots of good stuff here, okay? Do you want to take a break? Okay, good.
I love this argument.
Scribe, she loves to write, and it's great information. Kinza, it's Kinza, right?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, what's your name again? Aaron. Yeah, he kind of it made me think about something. Not just games, but like other things that you take yourself like interest into. It can like influence you in some way. Like you get what I mean? Like playing video games, but not just video games, but like I would say that depends on how much you like delve yourself into the topic, but he kind of made me think about like it can cause an influence in a way maybe.
Well, we're trying to identify what that might be, but let's come back again so we can make sure we stay on focus and target. Today is Kinza, you walked in a little late. We're looking at gamification of gamifying as a leadership problem-solving skill, how you bring gaming into your toolkit to solve problems as a leader. How would you use gaming? We had a guest as well to help us with that. You can watch the recording later and you'll see. Okay, so remember, 10 minutes. Sean hasn't said, and Afoma, you want to say something? Well, Scribe, she gets top priority, then Scribe second. Because Scribe, go ahead. And then Calvin first, then Scribe. Go ahead, Calvin. Yeah.
In my experience, I found it doesn't necessarily matter what game is being played that either increases or decreases aggression. I've found, the ranking system and the reward system cause so much like aggression and rage to ramp up the most. And it could be a very non-violent game. For example, Rocket League is a game where it's just cars and soccer, not very violent.
Right, right.
But when you go on a losing streak, you can see on YouTube or on Twitch these people having crazy rages of they're breaking their setups, all this stuff. I don't think the game that's being played matters as much as, say, the reward system that these games have been built off of, just messing with people's dopamine levels and all this
Yes,
stuff.
yes.
I think that's I think the reward system would cause more aggression than the game itself. And I could be wrong, but that's just what
You've noticed this.
Yes.
Calvin, can I just ask you, and then so what should you do to manage your rage at that moment when you've been ranked low?
So when I play video games, I pretty much only play video games with friends, and our sort of rule of thumb is we play until we lose. So once we get one loss, we may only play one game that day, but once we get one loss, we get off the game or we switch or something like that. We don't go on these like losing streaks because we know just
That's where the rage starts. This is a very interesting. I find this very insightful, but maybe all of you know how to manage and be a loser, because but so you play until you lose. How did you get that wisdom to know that? That's wise.
So it started with I don't even know when it started. Probably a summer in high school. And me and all my friends, we'd be staying up like way too late playing video games. So we had to come up with a system of getting off early enough. So we started just playing until we lose, and then we realized we actually feel better about the games we're playing because we're not going down like
Yeah.
the toilet bowl of just
Of
derank.
losing rage, and then next it's get me the weapon, and soon you're planning on who you're going to shoot, and then I'm just taking it to an extreme, but play until you lose, and then have the self discipline to get off when you lose. That's terrific. Thank you for that. Okay, now Maureen gets number one, then Scribe, and then we come over here. Okay, Scribe is still working, so Maureen, go ahead.
So this was just to kind of talk about what Aaron was talking about, and then to give it a name that what Kinza said. I think it's normalization,
Normalization.
because like Aaron was saying that, oh, if you do it in game, then it will be easy for him to like put a gun together. So it's like normalized that if you see it, like you kind of get desensitized to it.
Yes.
The reason I say is because so my other job, I work at a childcare, and over there, like we talk about normalization in terms of the teachers are required to put up pictures of certain things that would make the children more comfortable, and this starts as early as infants. So they're like
Sure,
4
sure.
months, 6 months, and we're the teachers are encouraged to have like photographs of like families that look different, or like
Yes.
someone who's like disabled, or like it's kind of like normalization
Yeah,
that the
yeah.
children are like get used to it. So I think like that kind of plays in with like adults where it's
Yeah.
they're normalized to it. I think that's what Aaron was
It's great. It's a great point.
talking about.
Thank you. Okay, Scribe is still writing, but let's get a microphone over to Afoma, and let's see. And then we're gonna start wrapping up, okay? Because we only have a few minutes left. Go ahead, Afoma.
Yes. So I think that Marine already said what I was trying to say. That Aaron wasn't necessarily saying that it causes aggression, but it does increase people's interest in things like that. They become, as she said, accustomed. It's normal. They don't see it as a problem anymore. And if given the opportunity, they believe they can. Or you might not be able to operate a gun, but people believe that they can.
Yeah. So we have to be careful about the normalization, or think about it. Okay, Sean, I know you haven't, and it was good what you did last week where you jumped in online in the speaker, and we heard you in the Cosmos. Very good. Okay, hold it. Karaoke. Turn it on. Go ahead.
So, sorry, my voice is, I'm still trying to recover, but there's that.
It's okay.
But
Take your time.
gaming to me also gives me a kind of like way to express myself in a way. Yeah, an outlook. Like gives me a way to like socialize with others, Helldivers too. I mean, gaming sure normalizes violence and desensitizes
Yes, yes.
people, but gaming also like gives a way for people to like socialize and everything. They can like
Yeah.
relate to they can relate in things. Also, violence is well has like is a double-edged sword. Sure, it can be used as a bad thing, but
Yes.
on a good side, it can unite people towards like fighting against well AI or bots.
For sure, for sure. And
So like
this is the double-edged sword, and we all have to be aware
you
of
gotta
how.
look at the positive end as well.
Very good, Sean. Okay, hold on a second. We got got 5 minutes left. I just want to make sure we have time and also to engage the cosmos as well. In the cosmos, are there any of you that would like to add something before we start moving towards the conclusion? And we're going to continue with the comments here, particularly Liam. Liam, do you feel that your question that you asked in your assignment, which was very good, about how do we get past complexity? Do you feel that today's class is helping you to understand that a little bit more on how to get past it by using gaming or gamification well? Is it, or do you feel more confused?
Yeah, definitely. And also one of the things I mentioned too at the very start of as the whole class as a whole, just the way everyone's communicating and everything, it allows a lot better of understanding of this whole complex or complexity, I should say. Um,
Yeah.
I think just everybody's thoughts being put together is a very good way to break it down. It's a very very simplistic way to see it. You hear it from one person, it gets passed around to another. You break it down from there on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's almost like a chain effect. And that chain effect is just a chain that's constantly breaking down into simpler and more simplistic facts.
Yeah. And leading to some insights, which
Yes.
for me, listening to this, what a fabulous insight today was Calvin saying, well, play until you lose, then walk away. As soon as you lose again and again, watch the rage start to. And now we might start to see, by the way, and I'm only going to say this just because I have to get this off my chest so quickly. You might start to understand the rage of the MAGA movement all over the world. Do you know that Donald Trump is not the great businessman he says he is? He had 5 bankruptcies. 5, 6 bankruptcies. He had a brother who was an alcoholic. We know this. The brother died of his alcoholism. And Donald Trump refused to help his brother go to the hospital. He was embarrassed. The father, terrible father, awful father, losing. The more you lose, the more angry you get. Maybe all the people out there that are just saying, God, tear down the government and join these movement of populists, maybe they got to walk away a bit more when they lose and take a deep breath. Losing can do that to you. It can make you so angry. You start to blame everybody. But I just got that off my chest. Okay. Now, first, I want to make sure we wrap this up really well. And Tanisha, definitely. We've got Kenza, Alec, and any of the gentlemen here. You got to choose one or two of, not both of you, okay? So because we'll do both of them, okay? And then Aaron, we're going to give everybody a chance to say one thing as much as they can. Then we're going to conclude. We might run a few minutes late, but there's lots of learning going on. So let's start with Tanisha, and then we'll come counterclockwise, and we'll finish with Alec. So Tanisha, take the microphone.
Like my last remark, So I'm going to pull up 3 examples from today's class. First, our guest told when one of our students asked, "What would you do if someone is not listening or someone not listening?" What was his answer? "I just defeat him."
I what? He is
I just defeat him. That was our guest answer to that question. Second question, I can't remember exactly, but his answer was, "My end goal is that tower. No matter how you get there, my end goal is tower." So now, third point is Alec pulling up that statics. I was talking from my own experience, and he was pulling up data from internet. So we human have gone from emotional intelligence is not only about self-regulation, it's about empathy. There are so many aspects to emotional intelligence. Do you
Are you saying, just so I understand, because it's an interesting one, are you saying that Alec was not listening to you? He was just going to the data
No.
and not listening to what Tanisha's experience is?
No, I was saying that we humans have become more like machines. Our humanity, we are losing it. I'll give you an example. I have not played a game a single day of my life.
You haven't?
I haven't.
You can't?
I haven't. I don't do that. I haven't played a game.
Maybe, just to be devil's advocate here,
So
maybe you should.
I'm going to conclude.
You should try.
So the point in our today's class is that we can get to problem solving and everything. We can use games. I understand that. But I also want to tell that emotional intelligence and humanity, we can be losing that in the end. And I have always been like a bookworm. I read books a lot.
Yes.
I write books a lot. My GPA is 5 point in first semester. Second semester, it was 4.96. And I have never used games to improve my mind. We can't do that without
Okay,
games.
I'll stop for
also.
the sake of time and just say one thing from a leadership standpoint. This is your professor talking to you in a supportive way, okay? It's only constructive. It's very unwise to be suspicious of something that you've never tried yourself. I would suggest that you try gaming a little bit. Exactly. You're afraid. Fear is not a good thing for a leader. Fear is not a good thing. You will become more of a follower if you're afraid. So but I'm only saying this to support you, okay? Because but I want to move this on, okay? To make sure that we get everybody's contributions in the end. Aaron, and then we'll go to Kinza and Pierce and Isaiah and Alec. Go ahead. Aaron?
So to what I had said earlier, I have a friend that games a lot and he plays action games. Now, I've been to his room before and he has 3 toy guns, but like he's addicted to collecting them. And I've tried shooting them before, and like if you actually shoot someone, it does hurt. And the reason he has these guns is he says that just in case anything happens. But now he's used to being in the game when you're playing people and someone can attack you. So now he keeps these toy guns on him just in case something happens. In his head, it feels like, oh, this is real. Like, I'm armed and like I'm ready for anything to come to me. So that's how the game has influenced him.
Fascinating.
He doesn't feel safe anymore without having the guns in his room, even if they're not real. But at least he knows he has something he can defend himself with.
That's fascinating, Aaron, and it reinforces something that Tanisha is saying, and we can understand why she might be so suspicious of these. So thank you for that, okay? Toy guns, normalizing the possession of a gun. He would not have you not been playing the video game. Interesting.
Yeah, hello. We're talking about gaming and like how it's used to like gaming.
We've been talking about how
Yeah, yeah.
gaming can be used as a problem-solving tool
Yeah,
in leadership.
I wanted to, and we talked about how there's like negatives and positive, but I believe like there's like a moderation. I think moderation is very important and like having a balance. Just like any other thing, like candy or something, like candy is good. Like we all love candy, but like too much of it, obviously.
Yeah.
So like moderation is very important.
Self-regulation.
Yes, self-regulation as well, and having those tools and emotional tools to like help you um cope as well are very important. And another thing, uh gaming has been used, like I'm not trying to say, I'm not taking one side.
Yes, yes.
I'm very in the middle. Gaming has been used. There was a to learn about genetics. So there was this game, and it was very early 2010s. Game called Philo, and it was for gamers where they mashed up genes. I don't know exact game. I don't know
Yep.
the exacts of it.
Go on.
But the game is called Philo, I believe, and the game was for everyone, obviously for gamers, and it helped researchers learn about biogenetics and like a lot of things, and like it was a really
Great
big
example.
movement for science. Yeah.
Kenza, excellent example. We're getting some great points here. Calvin's point, and then Aaron's point, and now this is some great takeaway. Thank you. Pierce.
So I'll try and be short. This is my great equalizer for this whole discussion. And for myself, the most complex mechanism of any sort, digital or biological, is the human brain. And to go off what the last speaker said, when it comes to moderation and putting that into games, I don't think it's so much the question of how much can games affect the mind and the brain, because literally everything can. This room, as what I'm not paying attention to, is. So I think it's about, one, knowing the brain and knowing the areas of how they function, and then from there, identifying the purpose of whatever game it is, or what you want your purpose from that game to be, and then just being conscious of all the ways it could influence you. In a simple way, System 1 and System 2 thinking of the brain from one book, Thinking Fast and Slow. So that's
Daniel
the way.
Kahneman. Yeah, great.
So I think that's an easy way to kind of
Nobel
simplify
Prize
it.
Yeah, thinking fascinating. Excellent. So, we have a word for that now, I think, that probably will resonate with all of you. It's called being mindful. At every moment, being ready to stand back and think about what's at use and think about it and not get caught up in the moment. Very, very good point. Thank you, Pierce. Isaiah? Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, I'm not trying to say whenever, like, I understand like Tanisha and Aaron's points. Like, obviously, like, your experience is a lot more direct. Like, if you're working with children, you're obviously gonna see things like more like faster and more impactful because it's the next generation coming up. But at the same time, I feel like you have a slight confirmation bias because you lived your life a certain way, and then you see young children living their lives separately and how that affects them. But which is true. I think you're correct in your assessment, but I think it's also important to note that not everyone's experience will be like that. There are people who will understand that technology is a tool and it's not necessarily like a place for children, as well as that these games are fiction, and that it might pique their interest in something, like whether it's firearms, whether it's like military practice, stuff like that. But like there's context to that. Like it starts and stops at one place. Like I play a lot of like UFC. I don't think I can go around like beating people up because I know like a bunch of like fighting combos, but it definitely piques my interest in learning more about martial arts and other things about that aspect, right? So I think it's important just to be open to these types of conversations and understand that like everyone's experience is different. And
Yeah. Thank you, Isaiah. Okay, finally, we're going to end with Alec, and then we're going to conclude very quickly. Go ahead.
Okay, so for just two quick things. First, on the topics of violence in games, I understand like what you're saying, and I understand the emotional part and being empathetic and things like that. But we also have to look at the fact that like violence in media has been a thing way before games were even made. Like this is like I remember
Movies.
watching old black and white
Movies.
Western movies where one guy would walk into a bar and shoot 33 people,
Yeah.
and that was just a
Yeah.
exactly, and that's what I mean. And even nowadays, like TikTok is more popular than a lot of video games. And on TikTok, there's lots of stuff about violence and how people are dying. And you can.
Yeah.
I was watching. I was going through it like a few days ago, and I had a video feed of a literal video feed from one of the Ukrainian drones shotgunning a Russian soldier. A live feed. Like that's what I mean. Like that's just violence that's happening. But even myself, like I probably have played more games. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but probably more than everyone in this classroom because of how much like the professional experience. Like I used to go to school, come home, 6 hours a day practicing
Wow.
in a game,
Wow.
which was considered a violent game because you would shoot the other player. That's just the way it works. And as our professor knows, I volunteer work. I read a ton of books. I go to
Yep.
school. My grade point average is a 4.8.
That's right.
And but like that has never affected me as a person. But that's my experience. But I understand where you're coming from, and I'm sure you understand where I'm coming from. And it's just the way the world runs. It's just how you work with what you know and how you try to work around it. Like I've worked with youth. I've worked with youth people and people that wanted to get into gaming because that's just where I was from.
Yeah.
And I showed them ways that they could get better. I've taught them teamwork. I taught them how to look at things in a different critical way. But it's like also like there are also non-violent games. If you want to try a game that you're worried about, try something like Minecraft. It's a wonderful art game where you can build things. And be
That's right. Yeah. I understand.
I also trust me. I
understand.
read a lot of books.
Well, let me stop and just because we're out of time. You have a discussion post 4. Remember, FOMA doesn't have to worry about that. One thing I need to say is you have a second assignment due Tuesday, February the 18th. Okay, that's been posted. So for all of you, keep that in mind. I really look forward to continuing to mark and getting your marks back for your first reflections. Again, Liam, thank you for the excellent question and your reflection today that helped the class. If you need to speak with me, I'm here, but I'm going to be outside actually in the atrium because another professor has to come in. Finally, just keep spreading the word about the great learning that's happening with all of us here. Invite your friends. Pierce, you're always welcome again. Thanks, everybody. Okay.
Thank
you
you,
next-
Lon. Take care.
Yeah, take care. Sign the board before you go so we know you were here. Get your participation marks. And we are done until next week. More guests coming. See you then. Okay, I'm going to shut.